11:47 p.m. A stretcher crashed through the doors. A Navy SEAL Admiral lying motionless, his uniform torn with 5 bullet holes, blood pouring through the fabric as surgeons yelled over each other, "Pressure dropping! We're losing him!" They tried everything. Nothing worked. Then the quiet rookie nurse stepped forward. Emma Clark, the girl no one trusted, the one everyone overlooked. She leaned over the Admiral, placed 2 fingers on his neck and whispered, "Not yet." Her hands moved faster than the surgeons, a maneuver none of them recognized, one she learned in Afghanistan. The monitor spiked, his vitals stabilized. The room froze. The surgeon stared at her like she'd done the impossible. 10 minutes later, they fired her for breaking protocol. Emma walked out of the hospital in silence, and that's when 10 black government SUVs screeched to a stop in front of her. Agents stepped out. Not for the Admiral, for her. Because she wasn't just a rookie nurse. She was the last surviving combat medic of a classified SEAL unit wiped out in Afghanistan. And tonight, they wanted answers. Before we begin, take 2 seconds to comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe. Your support truly keeps these stories alive. 9:32 p.m. Mercy Cross Medical Center. The entrance didn't swing open. It burst apart. A gurney flew down the hallway with such force that a supply cart almost tipped over. Nurses jumped back. An orderly stood frozen. Even seasoned trauma doctors, who figured they'd witnessed it all, went rigid when they caught sight of the uniform. A Navy SEAL Admiral lying there, completely still, his uniform ripped apart by 5 gunshot wounds. Blood seeping through the tan material and dripping from the gurney's metal bars, creating a trail behind them like crimson thread leading straight back to whatever war zone he'd been pulled from. 5 GSWs, unstable vitals, BP tanking, move! The paramedic hollered. The Admiral's identification tags rattled violently against his torso, with each thrust forward, ringing through the hallway like some kind of alarm. Inside Trauma Bay 6, pandemonium broke loose immediately. A dozen voices collided. Hands shifted too quickly to follow. Equipment beeped in frenzied confusion. Nobody could agree on a single thing. "Clamp that down! He's hemorrhaging too fast! We've got no pulse here. He's coded twice already." Doctors swarmed the Admiral, tearing apart his uniform, revealing the severe wounds carved deep into his chest. Blood drenched the linens under him, painting his skin a dark, horrifying crimson. His face had gone pale, the shade of somebody who shouldn't be coming back. Through all that madness, somebody slipped inside quietly. Sarah Mitchell, a rookie nurse, barely 7 months on the job, assigned mainly to basic medication rounds and routine checks because nobody trusted her with anything more serious. She drifted like a phantom, composed, silent, invisible, perpetually ignored. But tonight was different. She moved closer to the chaos like something was drawing her in, even while senior personnel completely dismissed her presence. One surgeon barked out, "We're losing him! Somebody get that rookie out of here!" Another one snapped, "She shouldn't even be in this room." Sarah didn't answer. She just kept her eyes locked on the Admiral. Something inside her clicked. Something ancient. Something she'd buried deep. The way his chest heaved in ragged gasps. The way the blood pooled in specific formations. The way his pulse wavered between faint and gone. The way his breathing caught like something internal was giving out. It wasn't chaotic. It was recognizable. The room kept spinning out of control. "Pressure's tanking! Where's respiratory? He's slipping again! Somebody do something!" Sarah stepped forward before her mind could object. Her hand reached for the Admiral's neck, 2 fingers positioned at the precise spot she needed, applying pressure in a way that seemed odd to every surgeon watching. "Get her off him!" one doctor yelled, but Sarah didn't budge. Her eyes focused, her breathing calmed. She murmured under her breath, not to the room, but to him. "Stay with me, Admiral." Her hand shifted with trained accuracy. the kind of accuracy that doesn't come from nursing programs, but from combat zones. She adjusted his airway just barely, pressed down in a sequence no civilian medic would recognize, then repositioned the angle of his oxygen mask. The monitors jumped. Beep, beep, beep. A consistent rhythm. The room went still. What the... His pressure's climbing. Is that even possible? What did she just do? Sarah stepped away, chest rising and falling, her calm exterior hiding none of the shock hammering inside her ribcage. She didn't want to think about where she'd picked up that technique. She didn't want to remember, but her body remembered for her. A dusty tent in Helmand. A SEAL teammate bleeding out fast. Her commanding officer screaming, "Mitchell, you're the only one. Who can pull this off?" A heartbeat that came back because of her hands. And then the blast that wiped out her whole unit. Sarah blinked hard, yanking herself back into the fluorescent glow of the trauma bay. The Admiral's vitals kept stabilizing on the screen. A miracle by civilian standards. The head surgeon whirled on her, face flushed with embarrassment. "You had zero authorization to touch him." Sarah opened her mouth, but words wouldn't come. She had no idea how to explain what she'd done or how she knew to do it. "Get out!" he shouted. "You just violated federal protocol." A senior nurse grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her backward. "You shouldn't have touched him," she hissed. "He's not a regular patient. You don't get it." Sarah glanced at the Admiral's motionless face, remembering how he'd once looked at her across a battlefield. His voice rang in her memory. "Mitchell, if I don't make it, tell them we didn't go down easy." She swallowed hard and walked out of the room. 10 minutes later, she stood in the director's office, badge in one hand, termination documents in front of her. "You endangered a federal asset," the director said icily. "You're dismissed effective immediately. Security will walk you out." Sarah didn't defend herself. She simply nodded, set her badge on the desk, and left with empty hands and a chest full of silence. Outside the medical center, the evening hit her like a frozen slap. Her breath misted the air. Her scrubs were still marked with the Admiral's blood. She started heading toward the parking area, and the pavement vibrated under her feet. Engines, heavy ones. She turned around. 10 black government SUVs pulled into the hospital driveway, headlights blazing through the darkness. All 10 vehicles halted at the exact same instant, perfectly synchronized. Doors opened simultaneously. Men in dark suits emerged with the coordinated precision of trained operatives. 2 nurses inside the building let out gasps. Somebody whispered, "Oh my God, did the Admiral die?" But Sarah knew instantly they weren't here for a corpse. They were here for a secret she'd spent years concealing. A man with a stern jawline and a badge that bore no recognizable agency markings stepped toward her. "Sarah Mitchell," he said, voice quiet but firm. Sarah didn't respond. He moved closer. "We've been searching for you." Her pulse hammered, her breath caught. Her mind screamed to bolt, but her body remained still. The man's eyes narrowed. "You saved the Admiral once before," he said quietly. "In Helmand." Sarah's heart stopped. He continued, "And tonight, you saved him again." The hospital entrance behind them cracked open slightly as staff watched the scene developing. Clueless, terrified, desperate to understand what was unfolding. Sarah felt the past claw its way back into her lungs. The man looked her dead in the eyes. "And now, we need you." Her knees almost buckled, but the real hit came next. "Sarah," he said, moving closer, dropping his voice to a whisper only she could hear. "Your entire SEAL unit wasn't killed by the enemy. Somebody betrayed you." The world tilted. Her fingertips shook. Her breath shattered in her chest. And then he said the words that tore open the wound she'd spent years trying to close. "The traitor works in your hospital." Sarah's heart stopped cold, and the night swallowed everything around her. Sarah didn't realize she was trembling until one of the agents moved forward and placed a steadying hand near, but not on, her elbow, like approaching a wounded creature. The hospital's frozen parking lot suddenly felt suffocating, thick with secrets she never intended to revisit. The neon emergency sign flickered overhead, throwing flashes of red across the black SUVs like warning signals. "Let's handle this inside the vehicle," the lead agent said. "Not here. Too many observers." Sarah looked back toward the glass hospital entrance, faces pushed against them, nurses murmuring, doctors staring. The director practically glued to the window in horrified fascination. She swallowed hard and turned away. The last thing she wanted was to give them another show. The agent gestured to an SUV door. Sarah hesitated, then climbed in. Inside was warmth, silence, and the faint scent of leather. The door closed with a heavy thud, cutting off the outside world. The interior lights dimmed automatically. 2 agents positioned themselves on either side of her. The lead agent sat across from her with a tablet already pulled up, files displayed that made her stomach twist. A photo of her, but not as Sarah Mitchell, the nurse. As Petty Officer Sarah Mitchell, SEAL Combat Medic. Black uniform, night vision goggles lifted onto her helmet, weapons slung across her chest, and a smile she didn't remember being capable of anymore. "We never bought that you died," the agent said, "but we didn't anticipate you'd resurface as a nurse." Sarah looked away. "I didn't resurface, I hid." The agent nodded once, acknowledging it without judgment. The ambush in Helmand. The report never made sense. Your unit was too skilled, too tactical, too trained to walk into a kill zone like that. Sarah's throat constricted. She saw the images again. Fire in the sky, metal twisting, bodies dropping. Her heart pounded in her ears. "You were the sole survivor," he continued, "but you were severely injured. When you woke up at Landstuhl Hospital, you vanished before debrief." "I didn't vanish," she whispered, voice breaking. "I escaped." The agent exchanged a glance with another operative. "Why?" Sarah exhaled long and slow. "Because I overheard 2 analysts talking outside my room. They said the ambush wasn't random. They said somebody sold us out. Somebody high enough that it would never go on record." She lifted her eyes, tears burning but refusing to spill. "And I knew if the traitor realized I survived, they'd finish the job." Silence filled the SUV. Heavy, electric, respectful. The agent leaned forward slightly. "Sarah, that traitor attempted to kill the Admiral tonight." Sarah's entire body went cold. "We intercepted communications from inside your hospital," he continued. "Encrypted messages coordinating the attack. The shooter wasn't operating alone. Somebody in your ER quietly altered his medications when he arrived." Sarah's pulse hammered in her neck. No, that's..." But the image of the head surgeon screaming at her, the director firing her instantly, the way everyone rushed to remove her from the Admiral's side, it wasn't incompetence. It was deliberate. Her hand clenched against her thigh. "Who?" The agent tapped the tablet screen. A blurry surveillance photo appeared. A man in scrubs, mask on, cap pulled low. But the eyes. Sarah recognized those eyes. No, it couldn't be." Her voice cracked. "That's Dr. Preston." The agent nodded. "Chief trauma surgeon." He was in Helmand. "Dr. Preston," Sarah whispered, memories slamming together. "He was consulting on our forward operating base 2 days before the ambush. He said he was studying battlefield triage." Her breath stilled. "He was mapping our patterns," she whispered. "He knew exactly where our unit would be the night we were hit." "And tonight," the agent added, "he signed the termination order to get you away from the Admiral's bedside." Sarah's stomach twisted with betrayal so deep it felt physical. The agent leaned closer. "He didn't fire you because you broke protocol. He fired you because you were the only one who could save the Admiral, because he knew you'd recognize things nobody else could." Sarah squeezed her eyes shut. She'd spent years running from her past, and it had been following her this entire time. "We need your help," the agent said softly. Sarah opened her eyes. "I'm not a soldier anymore." You don't need to be. We just need your memory, your instincts, your eyes on the scene. You're the only one alive who knows how the first attack happened and why this one looks identical." Sarah didn't speak. The SUV began moving, pulling away from the ER. Agents in the front communicated quietly through radios, their voices low and urgent. The lead SUV took point. The rest formed a protective box around her vehicle. Sarah stared through the tinted glass as the hospital shrank behind them. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. "To a secure location," the agent replied. "Someplace where you can talk freely and where nobody can reach you." Sarah looked back at the hospital once more. She saw Dr. Preston standing in the glass entrance, phone raised to his ear, face shadowed in anger rather than worry. Her chest tightened. For years, she'd been the invisible nurse nobody noticed. Tonight, she realized why that had kept her breathing. The SUV convoy sped through the empty streets until they turned into an abandoned industrial lot. A warehouse loomed in the darkness, lights flickering to life as the SUVs approached. The gates slid open automatically. Inside, the warehouse had been transformed into a mobile command center. Screens, lit up with satellite imagery, medical schematics, encrypted messages scrolling in real time. Sarah stepped out of the SUV slowly, breath shaking. Every agent in the building turned toward her. Some nodded in respect. Some stood straighter at her presence. Some watched her with the kind of awe normally reserved for war heroes. She wasn't used to it. She didn't want it. But she felt the weight of it all the same. The lead agent guided her to a table. On it were the Admiral's medical chart, the bullets pulled from his uniform, an encrypted flash drive, surveillance footage from the ER earlier tonight. And then Sarah saw the last item, a photo not of her, not of the Admiral, but of her entire SEAL unit. Smiling, alive, taken the day before they died. Her knees weakened. Her fingertips hovered above the image but didn't touch it. The agent spoke quietly. "We believe Dr. Preston coordinated the ambush in Helmand, and tonight's attack was meant to finish the Admiral before he could identify him." Sarah's throat tightened painfully. "He was my friend." "No," the agent corrected softly. "That's the mask he wore." Sarah stared at the board. The connections, the timeline, the locations, everything matched too perfectly. "He'll come after me," she whispered. "He already tried," the agent replied. "Firing you was step 1. Getting access to you once the Admiral died, that was step 2. Sarah swallowed. "What do you want me to do?" "Tell us everything," the agent said. "Walk us through the Helmand mission. Every detail, every instinct, every moment that didn't feel right." Sarah looked at the faces of her fallen teammates. Then she exhaled slowly and nodded. "All right," she whispered. "I'll help." But before the lead agent could speak, an emergency alert blared across the warehouse. Sarah's heart lurched, but the agent's next words were worse. "And Dr. Preston disappeared from the hospital 5 minutes ago." The warehouse fell into chaos. Sarah froze because she realized something horrifying. Preston wasn't running. He was hunting. And she was the target. If you think we should never judge the quiet ones, comment, never judge. For a moment, the warehouse felt suspended in a breathless silence. Every agent froze. Screens flickered red with the alert. Sarah stood still, pulse hammering in her ears as the words repeated in her mind. The Admiral is crashing again. Dr. Preston is missing. The lead agent snapped into motion first, barking orders into his comms. "Lock down the hospital, secure all exits, nobody gets in or out without clearance." Operators sprinted across the room, switching feeds, tracing thermal signatures, rerouting satellite images. Sarah's heart twisted. If Preston wanted the Admiral dead, this was the moment he'd strike. Vulnerable, weak, surrounded by staff trained to trust him. He could slip into the room with a mask and gloves, inject something clear and untraceable, and walk out like nothing happened. That's exactly how he did it in Helmand. She stepped forward, breath sharp. "We need to get back to the hospital now." The agent turned. Sarah, you're not cleared to... Nobody knows his patterns like I do, she cut in, voice shaking but steady. You think this is random? He kills the same way. Same dosage, same approach. He's repeating the exact method from our fob attack. She snatched up the Admiral's chart from the table. If he wants him dead, he'll do it himself tonight before Federal Command arrives. The agent hesitated for only half a second. Gear up, he ordered his team. We move. The convoy roared out of the warehouse like a pack of wolves. Engines low, tires silent, lights off. Sarah sat in the middle vehicle, flanked by two operators who checked their weapons with clinical precision. Her fingers dug into her scrub pants, knuckles white. Her mind replayed the faces of her fallen squad. Garrett, Silver, Holt, Commander Reyes, all dead because somebody they trusted helped put them in a kill zone. And Preston wanted to erase the last two people who could expose him, the Admiral and her. You okay? One of the agents asked quietly. Sarah stared out the tinted window at the rushing streetlights. I knew something felt wrong when he fired me. I just didn't want to believe it. He fooled a lot of people, the agent replied. But you survived him once. That's why you're here. Sarah swallowed hard. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel ready. She felt like the girl who watched her world burn and ran before the flames touched her. But she didn't run tonight. 5 minutes out, the driver called. The agents nodded to each other, vests adjusted, earpieces clicked, weapons checked. The SUV interior buzzed with controlled energy. Sarah inhaled slowly. He won't go through the front entrance. No, the agent agreed. He'll use a staff access route. Sarah closed her eyes. The service hallway behind Trauma 7. There's a blind spot in the cameras. He'd know that. The agent smirked. Good. You're thinking like him. Sarah hated that she could. When they reached the hospital, the entire building was lit up. Police cruisers blocked the main entrance. Nurses huddled outside, whispering frantically. Doctors scrolled through their phones, pale and shaky. Somebody cried near the curb. Sarah didn't stop. She pushed through them as the agents formed a tight cover around her. Inside, the ER buzzed with panic. We lost his pulse again. Where's Dr. Preston? He's supposed to... Somebody check the medication logs. We need ICU backup. Sarah sprinted toward Trauma 6, but the agent grabbed her wrist. Sarah, slow down. She yanked free. We don't have time. The room was chaos again, but this time it was different. Frantic, disorganized, desperate. Nurses moved like scattered birds. A junior resident tried and failed to intubate. Somebody knocked over a tray. The Admiral's monitors flashed angry red. The surgeon in charge spun toward the agents. Who are you? You can't just... Sarah shoved past him. She looked at the Admiral. Pale, sweating, trembling, but breathing. Barely. And then she noticed it. His IV line. The fluid bag hanging above him wasn't one the ER used. Wrong brand, wrong colour tint, wrong tubing clasp. Preston's been here, Sarah whispered. The agents raised their weapons instantly, sweeping the corners. Sarah grabbed the IV line and followed it down to the port. A faint chemical smell hit her nose, one she knew too well. The same toxin used in the Helmand ambush. The same one that collapsed her entire squad in minutes. Her throat tightened. He dosed him, but not fully. He's trying to sabotage slowly so the death looks natural. She tore the line free, slamming her hand on the emergency stop switch. A nurse screamed. Another gasped. You can't do that. She's fired, a doctor shouted. She's not supposed to touch him. An agent stepped forward. She's federally authorized. Move. Nurses scrambled. Sarah stabilized the airway with rapid, practiced hands. Her body moved before her mind caught up. Instinct replacing thought. Clamp, flush, pressure, reposition, breathe, monitor. His vitals rose by a hair, enough to keep him alive. But she felt it. A presence. Eyes. Somebody was watching. She lifted her head slowly. There, through the window of the trauma room, a figure stood partly hidden behind a corner wall. Masked, cap low, hands still. Dr. Preston, watching her work, watching her undo what he spent hours planning. Her blood ran cold. He didn't flee. He wanted her to see him. He tipped his head slightly, mocking her, daring her to come stop him. Sarah's chest tightened with rage. "He's here!" The agents turned immediately toward the window, weapons raised, but Preston vanished into the hall with chilling calm. The lead agent growled, "Lock down the floor!" Sarah didn't wait. She ran through the trauma wing, past the nurse's station, down the dim service hall where the lights flickered weakly. Every step echoed. Her breath hit the air like steam. She turned the corner and froze. A body lay on the floor. A nurse, her name badge reading T. Rodriguez. Pulse faint, injection mark on her neck. Sarah's stomach lurched. The agents approached cautiously, checking her vitals, ordering backup. "She's alive," one said. "Barely." Sarah's hands trembled. "He's trying to erase witnesses." Then she saw something on the wall. A smeared handprint of blood, dragged fresh, and next to it, a single word scrawled hurriedly with a finger. Sarah stared at it, breath trapped in her throat. But the agent behind her swallowed hard. "That's not a threat," he said quietly. Sarah turned, confused. The agent met her eyes grimly. "He's not telling you to run." Emma turned. The agent met her eyes grimly. "He's telling you he's coming." Sarah's pulse jolted. A noise echoed at the far end of the hallway. A rolling cart tipping over, metal crashing to the floor. The agents raised their rifles instantly. Sarah felt her heart slam against her ribs. Then, from the darkness at the end of the hall, a figure stepped forward, slow, deliberate, purposeful. Dr. Preston, gloves on, mask up, eyes cold. He lifted a syringe filled with clear liquid and spoke the words that made Sarah's blood freeze solid. "You were supposed to die with the rest of them, Sarah." Dr. Preston's voice echoed through the dim service hallway, cold enough to freeze the air around Sarah. "You were supposed to die with the rest of them." Sarah didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. The syringe in Preston's gloved hand glinted under the flickering industrial light, clear fluid swirling like a ghost inside the barrel. The same toxin he used in Helmand. The same one he'd already slipped into the Admiral's line. The same one that almost killed her squad. Her throat tightened. "Why them? Why him? Why us?" Preston stepped closer, slow and deliberate. "Because your CO was about to expose a contract that would cost powerful men billions. He refused to play along, so he had to go. And your entire squad just happened to be in the way." Sarah felt something old and dark uncoil inside her chest. "You killed them." He shook his head in mock sadness. "War killed them. I just redirected it." The agent spread out behind Sarah, weapons raised. But Preston lifted the syringe, placing the needle gently against his own throat, not to inject himself, but as leverage. "One step closer," he warned, "and this hits the bloodstream of the nearest person I touch, including her." His eyes locked on Sarah's. She felt her heart stutter. His boots clicked against the floor as he approached. One slow step, then another, the needle glinting like a knife made of glass. Sarah's mind raced. She couldn't let him slip away again. She couldn't let him kill another innocent person. She couldn't let the ghost of her squad remain buried while their murderer breathed clean air. But she also couldn't lunge. Not yet. Not until he was close enough. 2 steps. 3. Preston reached her, stopping just inches away. So close she could see the faint splatter of dried blood on his mask. "You," he whispered, were the mistake. Sarah exhaled soft and slow as the memories surged through her like fire. The explosion, the screams, the heat, her teammates burning, calling her name, the Admiral dragging her out of the wreckage with one arm, her begging him to leave her. His voice, "Mitchell, you're the only one who knows what he did. Stay alive." She had survived because the Admiral ordered her to, and now he was on a table fighting for his life again because of the same traitor. Sarah lifted her chin slowly. Then, let me correct your mistake. Before Preston could react, Sarah grabbed the wrist holding the syringe, twisted sharply, and jammed her palm against the nerve point in his elbow, the same move she used in Helmand to disarm an enemy fighter twice her size. Preston screamed. The syringe skidded across the floor. The agent surged forward. Preston kicked Sarah hard in the ribs, knocking her to the ground, and sprinted toward the exit. Two agents tried to block him, but he dodged between them with shocking speed, shoving a crash cart into their path. Sarah coughed, pain radiating through her side, but she pushed herself up instantly. There was no time, no space for weakness. Not now. She ran down the dim hall, past overturned equipment, past a trail of footprints marked in blood. She chased him through the ICU wing, breath ragged, heart pounding like artillery fire. Nurses scattered, alarms beeped, security shouted as the agents followed. Preston burst into the stairwell. Sarah didn't hesitate. She dove after him, grabbing the back of his coat. They both tumbled down the first flight, slamming into the railing. Preston elbowed her in the shoulder and bolted down the stairs 2 at a time. Sarah gritted her teeth and followed. 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th, each landing another echo of her past, the chase, the danger, the war she thought she'd left behind. At the bottom, Preston burst into the basement, a place filled with pipes, shadows, and humming generators. He grabbed a metal pipe from the floor, swinging it in a wide arc. Sarah dodged. The pipe slammed into the concrete pillar behind her with a deafening clang. "Just die!" he roared. Sarah ducked another swing and swept his legs, knocking him to the ground. She climbed onto him, pinning his arm with her knee. "You killed my squad," she screamed. "And I'll kill you too," he spat. But he couldn't move. Not with her weight on his chest, not with her elbow crushing his tricep, not with agents closing in from every direction. Preston thrashed one last time. Then Sarah drove her forearm into his throat, stopping him cold. The syringe he dropped earlier lay at the edge of the room, glinting faintly. Sarah reached out, slid it toward her, and held it up between them. "You used this to kill my brothers," she whispered. "To kill the Admiral. To kill me." Preston stared at her, eyes wide, frantic. "You wouldn't." Sarah tightened her grip. "No," she said, voice like ice. "But I will make sure you never hurt anyone again." The agent swarmed him, dragging him up, cuffing his wrists behind his back. As they hauled him away, Preston's voice cracked. "You think the Admiral will live? He won't make it. I dosed him too much." Sarah froze. The words ripped through her chest like shrapnel. "No," she whispered. "No, he can make it. He has to." "We need to get to him," an agent urged. "Now!" They ran back through the hospital corridors, pushing past staff, officers, chaos, straight to Trauma 6. The moment Sarah stepped inside, her breath caught. The Admiral lay still, too still. Doctors stood frozen. Nurses cried softly. The monitors showed a thin, irregular line. Sarah ran to his bedside. "Move," she ordered, voice cracking. She grabbed his hand. "Admiral," she whispered, her tears finally breaking free. "You fought for me in Helmand. You held me while I bled. You carried me. You told me to live, so you don't get to leave now. You hear me? Not now." His vitals flickered. Sarah placed her palm on his chest, eyes squeezed shut. "Come back," she begged. "Come back, please." A long, suffocating silence filled the room. And then, a sound. Beep, beep, beep. The line steadied. Sarah collapsed forward, her forehead falling onto his shoulder as relief shook her entire body. The Admiral's eyelids fluttered open weakly. "Sarah," he whispered, voice thin and broken. "You survived." "So did you," she whispered back. Agents flooded the room. The director stumbled in, pale. Nurses gasped. Doctors stepped back in awe. The lead agent approached Sarah with a sealed envelope. You ended a traitor's operation, he said softly, and saved a national hero. Federal command is giving you this. Sarah opened the envelope. A letter of reinstated identity, a federal pardon, a Medal of Valor recommendation, and a certified transfer. $5 million. For your survival, the agent said, and for your silence until now. Sarah stared at it, tears filling her eyes. She didn't care about the money. She cared that her squad wasn't forgotten, that their deaths meant something, that justice found the man who betrayed them. The Admiral squeezed her hand weakly. You're still the best medic I ever had. Sarah broke completely, burying her face into his shoulder as the entire room watched. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't forgotten. She wasn't a ghost. She was Sarah Mitchell, the last SEAL medic, and she had finally come home. If this story moved you even a little, please subscribe. Your support is what keeps stories like this alive. And I'm begging you, don't leave without hitting that button.